The question I wanted to ask is basically, shouldn't we revise the history of public service television as we've done it, and maybe reconsider the role of public service in the future? And I start from the fact that when you teach about public service television or broadcasting in universities around the world, and until today you talk about a British model, a BBC model, or a Western European model based on the triptych inform, educate, and entertain, which is to be found in the charter, the Royal Charter of the BBC in 26. And it's sort of a model which is supposed to be reproduced more or less in Western Europe, in other countries. And I think it's a very schematic view, and it doesn't work that way, because you have to dismember, you have to disassemble the different parts of public service and write the history of public service as education, as quality entertainment, if you want, as information, and also as art. And then you will find that public service was everywhere, was around the planet. You can find those missions based on communities of professionals, which sometimes worked in non-democratic countries. So public service happened to be also partly non-democratic countries. And sometimes they worked in commercial broadcasting, monopolistic, and they had a level of freedom. So public service has to be treated that way. And I can give you a few examples of this. The first part is the educational ambition of public service, which was really central to the ideal of the BBC. And you can find it in, of course, in Western Europe, in Italy with Non è mai troppo tardi, or in Spain, including under Franco, not in a democracy. But it was central to Latin American culture, including populist Latin American culture, the discussion around educación popular, popular education. And the few public service, public channels which were there were very, very worried about using television for the transmission of culture as a means of education. In the Soviet bloc as well, for communism, educating the masses is crucial, and television was a key tool. So you had professionals worrying about transmitting culture. It's a part of the history of communism, as so many parts of the history of communism, which, you know, because since the fall of the Berlin Wall, we forget so many things. And this is a part which cannot be just, you know, thrown down the drain. It could be considered. It's interesting, it's connected to the ideal of public service television. So that's for education. And the second thing I can think of is something which is part of public service, although it was not an official part of public service. Many creators of television in the 50s and the early 60s thought that television could be a new art form. They thought of drama and television drama. Live television drama was considered in many places, and there were theories about this and articles and so on and so forth. It was true in the BBC, in France, in Italy with the Sceneggiato, which was live at least in the beginning, in many, many other countries. But it was true in Colombia, where drama was theorized and discussed. It was true in the US, including on commercial television, where you can see live drama, quality dry drama broadcast in the 50s with important authors. So this was supposed to be in many places. You see this as a typical public service genre, television drama, high quality literary, historical television drama, and it belongs to many other television systems. So that's another thing. It's both art and education, if you want, and a bit of entertainment too. Television was used for happenings, for really creation. Artists went into television when it was small, when it was a bit ignored. In Argentina, there was a tradition of television happenings. Really avant-garde television was there. And it's not something you expect, at least when you read about this from the outside. So there are hidden parts of the history of TV. And maybe it can give us a little hope about the future of television as a place where, because now we have minority television with hidden small television stations where you can experiment more. So maybe we can learn from that past. And a final point is information, because that is the first mission, you know, the inform, educate, and entertain. Public service television was considered as especially after the war in Europe, after fascism and the Nazi regime and the fall of authoritarian regimes in many, many countries, including Japan or Hungary and so on and so forth. People thought that the media, the electronic media, radio, and then very quickly television could be used for better information, for democracy. This is considered as central to public service and to Western European broadcasting. But it's true only of a minority of European countries, basically Scandinavia and the UK and Ireland and Germany were concerned about that. And you could say there was a democratic public service system of radio and television with some faults, but more democratic than of course, dictatorships in the south, like Spain, Portugal, Greece, but also more democratic than France and Italy, where you had until the 70s and even later to some extent, public service television was not truly democratic, let's face it, as far as the news was concerned, and the TV magazines. Under De Gaulle, and we know it now more than we knew before, under De Gaulle in France, you had ministers giving instructions to producers to make specific programs, which are really governmental propaganda. And this is supposed to be about the democracy. So public service, I would say, was more stronger in many ways because it was more diffuse. You can find it around the planet. You can find bits and pieces of public service, and very interesting ones. And it was weaker than we think because the ideal of democratic information was reached only in a handful of countries, and this is also something we can learn from.